The fastest fighter jet on the planet is screaming toward Japan with a dead engine, a pilot who's about to piss himself, and the entire Soviet Air Force watching helplessly because they're too stupid and too slow to stop him. This is not a CIA operation. There were no secret meetings, no briefcase full of cash, no cool spy handshake. This is a miserable Soviet lieutenant who got tired of his government treating him like garbage. So he decided to steal a $6 billion piece of military hardware and give it to America for free. Not for money, not for fame, because he was pissed off about his apartment. What happens next is a masterclass in bureaucratic incompetence, Cold War paranoia, and one man's willingness to roll the dice with his own life. And it ends with the United States government realizing they've been terrified of a piece of shit for 10 years. Let's get into it. September 6, 1976, the Soviet Far East. Viktor Belenko wakes up in his shitty concrete apartment, kisses his wife goodbye, doesn't tell her he's about to commit treason, and drives to the airbase. Routine training flight, solo patrol along the coast, boring. He suits up, climbs into the cockpit of a MiG-25 Foxbat, call sign Red 87, starts the engines, takes off, nothing unusual. The radar operators in Vladivostok track him north, coffee cups on the consoles, yawning. Standard day in the Soviet Air Defense Force. Then Belenko pushes the throttles forward and turns east, straight toward Japan, full afterburner, Mach 2.5. The radar blip suddenly stops following the patrol route and starts booking it toward international airspace like a dog that just saw a squirrel. The operator blinks, picks up the radio. Red 87, you are off course. Acknowledge. Silence. Red 87, return to base immediately. Nothing. The operator calls the shift commander. The shift commander calls the base commander. The base commander walks over, looks at the screen, and realizes that a lieutenant just stole the most classified aircraft in the Soviet Union, and there's not a goddamn thing anyone can do about it. Now, here's where it gets embarrassing for the Soviets. The MiG-25 is the fastest interceptor in their inventory. Nothing can catch it. They scramble interceptors anyway out of spite, I guess, but the Foxbat is already gone. The base commander grabs the radio himself. Lieutenant Belenko, this is Commander Petrov. You are ordered to return to base. If you do not comply, you will be shot down. Static. The MiG is at Mach 2.7 now. He's 30 miles past the point where any Soviet missile has a chance in hell of hitting him. The base commander slams the radio down and has to make the phone call to Moscow. Hey, so, one of our pilots just stole the Foxbat. Yeah, no, we can't stop him. Yeah, we're aware that's a problem. In Moscow, the KGB loses its collective mind. This is the worst-case scenario. Not just a defector with a goddamn MiG. The Americans have been trying to get their hands on one of these for years, offering millions, running spies. And now some angry lieutenant is just handing it over because his housing allowance was shit. But here's the thing about stealing a fighter jet. They burn fuel like an alcoholic at an open bar. And Belenko has been flying at full afterburner for almost 20 minutes. He checks the gauge. The needle is dropping. Fast. He does the math in his head: distance to Japan, current fuel level, rate of consumption, and the numbers don't add up. He's not making it to a U.S. military base. He's barely making it to Japan at all. He cuts the afterburner, drops altitude, starts scanning the horizon for anything that looks like a runway. The engine sputters. Once, twice. The fuel warning light goes from yellow to flashing red. He's gliding now. 50,000 pounds of Soviet engineering with no engine power, falling toward an island he's only seen on a map he memorized in his bunk. Then he sees it. Hakodate, a civilian airport on the northern tip of Hokkaido. Small, meant for domestic flights. Definitely not meant for a Mach 2 interceptor with a dead engine and a pilot who's about to become a smear on the tarmac. He lines it up. The engine dies completely. No thrust, no power. Just a ballistic missile with a guy inside praying that the landing gear holds. The MiG slams onto the runway at nearly 200 miles an hour, bounces hard, hits again. The tires screech, metal groans. Belenko stands on the brakes, fighting to keep the thing from flipping over or exploding. It stops, right in the middle of the runway. Smoke, silence. Belenko sits there for a second, breathes, then pops the canopy and climbs out. Inside the terminal, passengers are screaming. A Soviet military jet just landed on their runway without permission, without clearance, without any goddamn warning. Airport security runs out with guns drawn. They surround this guy in a flight suit and Belenko raises his hands. In broken English, he says, "I am Soviet pilot. I want asylum. I want to go to United States." The security guard stares at him like he just landed a flying saucer, which, to be fair, he basically did. Within hours, the phones between Tokyo, Moscow, and Washington are melting. The Soviets demand the pilot and the aircraft back immediately. The Americans are already on a plane. The Japanese are stuck in the middle, trying to figure out how one pissed-off lieutenant just caused the biggest diplomatic crisis of the decade. The Japanese make their call. They grant Belenko asylum mostly because sending him back to Moscow would make them look like spineless puppets. Within 48 hours, a team of American intelligence officers and Lockheed engineers lands at Hakodate. They set up lights, cameras, and toolboxes on the tarmac. They dismantle the MiG-25 like a goddamn Lego set. And what they find makes the entire United States military-industrial complex look like a bunch of paranoid idiots. The Foxbat isn't a super weapon, it's a flying brick. The fuselage is steel, not titanium, heavy, crude, covered in visible rivets. The Americans thought the Soviets had cracked the code on advanced metallurgy. Turns out, they just didn't have enough titanium, so they used steel and bolted two massive jet engines to it to make it move. The electronics, vacuum tubes, 1960s technology. The West was using microchips. The Soviets were still using the same shit your grandfather's radio used. But here's the sick joke. Vacuum tubes are immune to electromagnetic pulses. The Soviets built a jet that could fly through a nuclear war zone, fire its missiles, and fly home. It wasn't elegant. It wasn't advanced. It was engineered to survive the apocalypse. The range was pathetic. 90 minutes of combat time, tops. The radar was so powerful it could cook a rabbit at 50 feet, but it was blind at low altitudes. The F-15 Eagle, the American counter, could outturn it, outgun it, and outfly it in every metric that actually mattered in a dogfight. The Pentagon had been terrified of a ghost. They took 50,000 photographs. They documented every rivet, every wire, every vacuum tube. Total intelligence value, over $2 billion. And what did they learn? That the Soviets were playing a different game. Not the game of precision and sophistication. The game of make it tough enough to survive the end of the world and hope the other guy blinks first. And Belenko, he got his freedom, new identity, a job as a defense contractor, a house in a country where the cars start in the winter and the stores actually have food on the shelves. He lived out his life in America, retired, died in 2023. But here's the punchline. The bitter, gut-punch ending that makes this whole story less heroic and more tragic. The Soviets wouldn't let his wife and son leave. They kept them trapped, punishment for his betrayal. He never saw them again. He escaped to the Soviet Union alone. He lived the rest of his life alone. He stole the most advanced fighter jet on the planet. He handed the West the intelligence coup of the century. And the price was exactly one man's entire family. Worth it, you tell me. Subscribe or don't, I don't care. The MiG's in a museum now. Belenko's dead. And the Soviet Union collapsed anyway. Some people win. Most people just pick which way they want to lose.